Yeah, my son does too, Sam. Can we stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Public comments. I see no one. Moving right along. All right, we have a consent agenda. Approval of meeting minutes from 9/17. Request to approve account payable warrants 13 and 14 in the surplus inventory. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, does anybody want to pull anything? No. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4:30. Okay. New business. Gerard, take it away. What do you got? All of it?
I do have all of it. Addie's running a little late, so
That's okay. It's a weird time of day.
we weren't sure that the meeting was at 4, so. Okay. At Chandler, we are getting into routine with our new CKLA instruction, and K through 12 classrooms have mostly finished their first knowledge unit, which all focused on some sort of fables and fairy tales. For the second unit, the topics are very high level, with kindergarten learning with the 5 senses, first grade learning about the human body, and second grade learning about ancient Greece. We are excited about the knowledge our students are gaining with these new materials. This Friday, during our professional development day, we will continue with our CKLA training for teachers, focusing on deeper planning. Chandler has our first round of parent/teacher conferences coming up during the evening of October 16th and the afternoons of October 22nd and 23rd. We are looking forward to sharing student progress with their families. That's not right. I have DHS in Alden. Okay. Don't believe I have an Alden report, so I'll skip to middle school. At DMS, we have had a busy few weeks. Our co-curricular clubs have begun, and many clubs held initial meetings last week. Sign-ups are still open. Our field hockey and cross-country teams are doing well, and we have a great participation in all these activities so far. Last week, we posted Fall iReady, family reports on Aspen for all families, and sent out a variety of support materials to families as well. We are beginning interventions and are communicating with families of students identified for these as well. We are excited to be welcoming some student interns to our classrooms from DHS childhood ed classes, and are thankful to also have a number of NHS high schoolers who have started providing tutoring during ASP in our team area as well. All of our teams have kicked off the year with some wonderful experiences off campus as well. 6th grade went to Treetops. Our 8th graders are heading into Boston to the planetarium this week, and our 7th graders head to Hale Reservation next week. At DHS, we had a great weekend celebrating homecoming and DHS Pride. On Saturday night, over 600 of our students danced the night away in the DHS gym for our annual homecoming dance. A huge thank you to our student council, executive board, and their advisors, Mrs. Bonneau, Mrs. O'Brien Murphy, Mr. Files, and Mrs. Holbrook, for their work organizing and putting together the dance. And a huge thank you to all PTO volunteers who donated cupcakes, refreshments, and their time to help make the dance happen. It was really such a fun dance. Last week, we received our MCAS results from the 2024-2025 school year, and we are very proud to announce that the outstanding results. Due to the academic resources, support, and opportunities offered at DHS last year, our students continue to meet with the academic success. Out of the 905 listed in Massachusetts district, our 9th graders were ranked 22nd in student meetings or exceeding expectations on the science MCAS. Our 10th graders were ranked 7th on the ELA MCAS, or 4th if only looking at public schools, and 2nd on the math MCAS, or 1st if only looking at public schools. This is a wonderful achievement not only for our hardworking students, but just as much for our talented faculty and staff who teach our students every day, and for all of our supportive families. Additionally, MCAS ISRs, individual student reports, will be sent home at the end of the week. This past Wednesday, October 1st, Anna Fletcher, 26, and Cole Bonner, 26, attended the Harvard Club of Boston Prize Book Breakfast, accompanied by DHS guidance counselor Ms. Caroline Powers. They traveled to Boston and were honored at the Harvard Club along with other high-achieving students from around the state. Congratulations to Anna and Cole. In athletics, Duxbury received the Boston Globe Award for the winningest school in the state with a 73% win percentage last year. Watch out for more articles about this incredible honor.
Nice. I have one question. Were all the cupcakes consumed?
No.
They
I
panned
ended up
them
taking
on.
some home.
There were so many, but they looked delicious. Hi, Addie.
Hi.
Anything you want to add? Oh, don't apologize. Student first.
I don't know if there's anything I want to add. Homecoming was fun.
Good.
It was
Yeah,
a
I heard.
success.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Had a blast, for sure.
Yeah. And then what week is, so normally, I'm confused this year.
Oh, about Spirit Week?
Spirit Week was
Yes.
always the 4 days after, and now it's the week following that?
It's,
It was due to where,
Oh, there was a,
our home game schedule fell with also Yom Kippur, and so there was
Got
no
it.
place where both could be together.
thank you.
yeah.
So it's the week of the, got it, and there's a game that weekend. There's no game. Okay, I'm just gonna show up at the pep rally.
There is a Friday, there's a Friday night game.
But the Saturday couldn't be the dance
Right.
because it was CNAS. There's so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, everybody worked it out. And shout out to the student council. They do so much work.
True.
Gerard,
A lot of work.
Gerard and the gang.
Yeah.
They got to spread out the October fun with homecoming at the beginning and Spirit Week at the end, right?
I know, I'm kind of
Yeah.
glad, because like, then I have two things to look forward to. And it's not like as stressful. I feel like sometimes it was stressful, like the whole week, because you have to wake up so early too, to dress up and stuff, and like go to breakfast. Like the tailgates start at like 7:30, and I always have to get ready before.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, looking forward to it.
exactly.
Okay. DHS International and Domestic Travel Handbook first read. And I don't know who's taking the lead on that.
I think I would suggest we have Ms. Cotton Herman come up and perhaps she can give you some highlights, and then I'm sure you all had the chance to review some of the recommended adjustments, so.
I also came straight from faculty meeting where we had candy, so,
I think that's a great,
wondering
if that was going to be available.
Wow.
please, thank you so much, Ms. Cotton Herman. Save one for Mr. Gambino, Gerard.
Where's Mr. Gambino?
He's
We don't
probably
know.
on his way.
He didn't say he was gonna miss. He always contacts me. I don't know. We just care about candy.
Ms. Cotton Herman, do you want me to pull up the memo that accompanied the,
you could, yeah, and I have, I can kind of just introduce things. I was also going to send you a new version of the,
Okay.
cell phone policy for that presentation because there were some things added.
okay, if you email that to me, I can use that updated presentation.
All right. So I do have this on. Yeah, I think it's on now.
Yep.
So this handbook is something that has existed for a few years, previously called the Global Travel Handbook, and now I kind of renamed it, if it gets approved, just the DHS Travel Handbook, because it certainly could apply to many of our overnight trips within the United States and domestic travel as well. So, you know, planning an overnight trip, when it's multiple nights, like we know that sometimes like a group of students might have like a one-night field trip or something like that. But when it's a multiple night trip, as we can all imagine, we know that's a very large undertaking for those trip leaders who are really, there's usually one point person, sometimes two, really taking the lead on that, you know, really begins with a little bit of pre-planning, but then a school committee approval. And then they do continuous work with the travel partner to book tickets, hotels, the itineraries. They have to do a lot of careful planning to make sure that all safety precautions have been taken. They're communicating constantly with the students and parents and guardians who will be taking part, as well as with a lot of different entities at the schools, right? From the nurses to our business office to the assistant principals, guidance counselors. And then when they're on the trip, they're responsible for very vigilant supervision 24/7. So in looking at the global travel handbook, when I came into the position of principal last year, it just was apparent that some pieces of it were a little bit outdated. It also had been added to, I think, over the years, we should probably add this paragraph here or this here. So it had become a little bit repetitive in places, sometimes even contradictory about when certain things should be done. So it started to kind of get a little bit unorganized. And so we took time this summer. There was a faculty member doing some hours with us who helped with it as well to really take a deep dive and make some suggestions for edits that kind of fall into a few categories. I would say the overall one was really just basic edits for brevity, for clarity, and for organization. And as part of that, she was very helpful in designing checklists, which are in the appendix at the end now, because there is so much to keep track of. And so to keep track of it in a prose chapter of multiple pages is a lot. So those checklists have been added. But then in terms of expectations, being more clear about student eligibility expectations, increased training and just making sure everyone's on the same page for the chaperones attending the trip, and then clarified expectations for supervision of students. And a lot of those things were taking place in practicality, but they hadn't been memorialized in this handbook, because I think the handbook was originally more about planning for the trip than necessarily all the pieces that you have to remember to be aware of on the trip. So that's kind of a broad overview. What was included in your packet was that memo that had some of what I just said, as well as the new proposals and the original. I know that it's a really long document, so I highlighted as I said, really the whole handbook was edited because of those pieces around clarity and brevity, but the pieces that were substantially different in terms of content were highlighted in yellow. So I'm happy to answer any questions about those. And I think from here, the idea would be that this is a first read, and then I would take your feedback. I would like to bring it to my school council and then finalize it for a second read.
Any feedback?
I think also, Jen, if I could just add, Ms.
Yes,
Cotton-Herman,
please.
one additional piece that went back to having trip leaders come before school committee.
Yes.
And bring that practice back as it had been done in past years, so that school committee members have the opportunity, depending on the location of the trip or what's happening in the world at the time, to be able to ask Ms. Cotton-Herman or the trip leaders who are proposing the trip questions, instead of having that just be an item in the consent agenda, just to give the school committee more involvement with questions about the trip, as it had been done in the past, and any enhanced security recommendations. And so that would be another practice that we would be recommending moving forward.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
removing it from the consent agenda
Yeah.
and making it an item.
Its own, yeah.
Are the existing trips that are planned, kind of grandfathered into the current?
I would say it's a little bit of a hybrid, because there are students that are already signed up. And to be
Right.
honest, I think the students signed up would meet those eligibility
Okay.
requirements, but they are already signed up. I do think, though, that if this is approved, I would want to meet with those chaperones to go over the new expectations, because we would want those to be in place. But I think, there are some pieces that we talked about, such as for overnight trips, really requiring that we hire overnight security if it's a hotel stay. Some of our trips, we have an annual Spanish exchange program where they're really in home stays. So that is a little bit different. We have to do our best to vet the families that students will be staying with, and then we're really trusting them with that supervision. Chaperones aren't staying with them.
Yeah.
So I could see perhaps something like that not working for a trip that's leaving in just a few months because we didn't already hire that personnel or factor that into the trip costs for families. But I think other than those pieces, like the expectations, just for, again, that supervision, which most of that was happening in practicality anyway, but I think having some really, what we really wanted to do with this document was be able to be really clear with families too, like this is what it's going to look like. This, you know that your students will be supervised in this way. These are the places where there is less supervision that you're signing off on that, and you really know, and because parents know their students best in terms of feeling like knowing when they're ready to do a trip like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And we already had a pre-meeting for Galapagos.
Yeah,
and
on
the-
open house night, right?
Yep, the expectations were crystal clear.
Yeah.
And it's a small group.
Yes,
But-
and
but
that
it
trip
was-
is a little bit,
It's-
all trips are different, but that one, they're so exhausted. I
Yeah.
think that they,
Yeah.
think they're just like, hit the pillow and they're out.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the chaperones are doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, yes,
Yes.
that was a great trip 2 years ago, so I'm excited for the kids to have that experience this year.
Me too. Ugh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the updates that you have here, obviously, the things that were
Laurel, I
identified.
don't think your mic is
Oh, no, it's not. Now it's on. Yikes. Are important pieces that I think we're missing from the prior. So I think obviously I appreciate the time taken to address those additions. There was only one, the DHS overnight chaperone contract. I was just curious, is that like in development? So that
Yeah,
it's
it
not
will
linked yet?
basically be,
Okay.
yes, so you will see that the last page is it just that
Under
appendix
construction,
was
yeah.
under construction because there are so many links
Yeah.
that we're just trying to organize. I think they'll fit all on one page for Appendix D. And all that page will be the links to the things referenced here.
Okay.
But that contract will really be, what page is it that has the long list of chaperone expectations? Page 16. It will really just be outlining those points that are on page 16 in terms of being, for those people taking on the responsibility of chaperoning the trips too, really being clear like, oh, okay, I do know what I'm expected to do if I sign up to do
While
this.
you're traveling.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so I will bring it to my school council as well, and we'll bring it back when it's all set, and it'll have all those links at the end as well.
I'm curious, so the last kind of step here is, this is just a handbook, so is the expectation that all adults and the students traveling there will be some sort of signature component to this? I'm just curious, that might be something to think about. Having it is nice, but an acknowledgement that it's been reviewed, much like our DHS handbook and DMS handbook.
Yeah, I think I hadn't thought of that, and I think we could do that with like the trip. Most of what's in here are outlines for the trip leader. So I think having the chaperone sign off on like because some of those chaperones are really just coming to like the 1 or 2 meetings beforehand and then coming on the trip. So that's why they would be signing off on like the expectations for the actual supervision.
Right.
And the students, a lot of this isn't so much about the students. The students do already have a contract that they and their parents sign.
When you sign up for the trip.
Yes, and then you're signing off also on like a piece around understanding that all school rules are in effect, that the DPS
handbook
code of
applies,
conduct is,
essentially.
yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where you cover
And then
that
there's
base.
some additional bullet points under that of like, in addition, on an overnight trip, you're also expected to do these things. So students and parents sign off on that.
On that piece of it,
Yeah.
right? I should remember that because I should have signed it. I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, I guess, reframing this is more of kind of a handbook actually for the adults.
It
it's-
is. We wanted to include some of the the expectations for the students, but I don't really think the students would be reviewing this. The
Right.
pieces that apply to students would, I think that's one of those things where like that contract that the students and parents signed, the additional pieces that we
The
put in, I'm going to
appendices.
add to that.
Right.
And that will be in the appendix,
Okay.
those forms. Yeah.
And I think in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, the pre-trip meetings weren't necessarily mandatory.
Yeah, I think they were supposed to be, but I think students always went, but we know that it's difficult for like parents and families to make that work sometimes, right? Like maybe you have a work event that night. And so I had heard that sometimes like a parent didn't go, and that really needs to happen. So
Yeah,
that's one of those things we added in terms of like, if they can't go, that's fine, but like, I'm sure you could find 20 minutes to Zoom at some point with that one person before the trip to make sure they really are understanding all the expectations and what they're signing their student up for.
And I guess, want to make a little caveat. You can be the best chaperone, and you can be the greatest teen, and you might make a really careless decision, and it's going to have maybe severe consequences.
Yep.
You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I think we have to recognize who we're dealing with, and there's a lot of commentary, and kids sometimes are just going to try to pull stuff. So the adults are doing the best they can.
Absolutely, and I think we owe it to the people taking that responsibility too, for them to be really clear on like, okay, so now this happened, and I know what steps that I need to take from here. Yeah, because that happens in school, that happens out of school, that happens on trips, that happens at friend's house, absolutely. Yeah,
Sure.
so.
All right. Well, I guess you're staying with us because now it's cell phone policy check-in.
Yes, so I know in most of that presentation was in the packet, but Addie and Gerard and I were still collecting some things to add to it, so I just shared the most recent version. Is that good?
Just give me one moment.
Yeah.
So that I can.
I know, I'm
not
sorry,
pull
you
my
have to,
email
like,
inbox
jump over
up
now.
on the overhead here and turn it back on again. We never want to not be confidential because I have my
I know.
screen displayed.
Cat videos.
No, you wouldn't see anything like that.
Nothing
But
fun.
you might see information that I shouldn't have
But I don't want to know.
posted for the world. Why did it not come up?
Perfect. All right, you guys ready? Yes. Okay, so I'll kick us off a little bit. I started just with, on the next slide, I think, Danielle, just with, or the next one, kind of a timeline of where we are, which is no surprise to any of you, but perhaps for other people tuning in. So knowing that 2 summers ago, the DPS cell phone policy was passed, and I think really at that time the reasons for that, and I think there were many, but the pieces that I think we were talking about the most at that time were obviously the distractions in the classroom, but also what we've seen nationally in the conversation around the negative impacts on the mental health of students who are spending so much time, I think specifically in those pieces, not just on screens, but on social media. So we rolled it out in August of 2024 as last school year started. And I think as with any shift, we expected some growing pains. We certainly had the issue, I think, with the understanding around ASP, but we addressed that at the time. And so really for the 99% of last school year, that was the expectation, that phones were away in caddies. I think as students entered every classroom space, but that they could have them during passing time and during lunch. And I think as, it's a challenge always, with a large organization to get everyone kind of on board and rowing in the same direction, students and staff. But we really tried to make that clear last year and be consistent, and I think we're living into that more now in the second year, and seeing more success with it, which you'll see in our presentation today. So at the end of last year, you may recall, I think I came in May to do an update, and so I did a quick survey before then, and at that point, 87% of our staff felt students were more engaged in class due to the new policy. 22% of our students felt the same way, but we'll see some shifts in that today from Addie and Gerard. And so that kind of brings us to where we are now. So on the next slide, this was one of the pieces that I surveyed our faculty about, just to see what they were concerned with still here in year 2, and I think it really does mirror those same things that were cited in that original press release, right? We still have concerns about distractions in the classroom. I think that is the #1 concern from our teachers, but certainly the mental health and peer-to-peer interactions, which really goes hand to hand, I think, with the mental health. But knowing, when you walk into a classroom or any space and students are on their phones, that means that they're not talking to each other or interacting with each other in ways that we know are so healthy and really important to development. I did ask if there were concerns about cyberbullying and cheating or academic dishonesty, and those were certainly there. But the pieces that we were originally concerned about were still the highest ranked. So as we rolled things out this year, there were reminders at opening faculty meeting. That slide on the left was just one of the slides from our very first day back together, reminding everyone of the expectation, and really that I wanted the focus this year to be on consistency. That's what I keep talking about across all classrooms, because what happens if there's like 1 or 2 people that maybe aren't consistently enforcing it? It's kind of the same thing that happens in many of our homes, where maybe, well, mom said this, but dad said this, so they're not on the same page. So now there's some wiggle room, right? And so we really all need to be a united front and be a team in this. And I have been really happy. I just pulled that blurb from one of my faculty newsletters in terms of going into classrooms this year. When I walk in, I look at the caddy, I count the phones, I look at the students, I count the students, and they're up there, and students are engaged. So that has been good. On the next slide, there's just a couple slides that Todd and Lou, assistant principals, Mr. Warmington and Mr. Alberti, they always have meetings with every class at the beginning of the year to go over expectations. And so they were reminding students of those expectations as well. So that was the rollout this year. On the next slide, I just wanted to zoom in. I think I've shown you this before, but this is something that's hanging in many of our classrooms. This is how we address issues with cell phones in the classroom at the high school. So we have at the top just the basic expectation that we will all consistently enforce this policy. If a student doesn't put their phone away, or somebody sees a phone on a student in a classroom space, or like in a hallway, when they should have been in class, but they left to go to the bathroom, the first offense, the teacher will give them a warning, have them put their phone away. If it happens again, the teacher, on a separate day, the teacher will give them a teacher detention. But on the 3rd offense, that's really when it rises to the level of being referred to the main office. So I don't necessarily have data on how many teacher warnings or teacher detentions are given, because that is handled in the classroom as a basic classroom management situation between student and teacher. But once it is a 3rd offense, it is referred to the main office, and an assistant principal meets with the student and gives that student a detention. If that continues to happen, all subsequent violations are written up, and there was progressive discipline, meaning maybe the next time there's 2 detentions, maybe now it's a work detail. It could go all the way to suspension and an individualized student cell phone policy. We have not had any students suspended. We have confiscated phones. We have had students with individual cell phone plans where they need to drop it off in the main office when they come in the morning and pick it up at the end of the day because they've lost their privilege. They've shown that they can't be responsible. Okay, so and so just to show you some of that data, I reported at the end of last year. I think I reported in May, so I think actually at that time we had 76 office referrals, but by the end of the year we had 86. Obviously, we're not that far into the school year. I pulled this data, actually Mr. Warmington pulled it for me last week, so there could have been 1 or 2 more, but as of last week there had been 7, and so we were having less. We are having less referrals per school day than
That
what we
means
were
it's
seeing.
third offense,
Do you
right?
know if it's upper?
And this isn't until the third
the
offense,
third offense?
absolutely.
That's okay. Is that, do you know what grades for the
I didn't
older
pull
kids?
that.
Because with freshman academy and
Yeah,
kind of
I could
coming in with
I
it.
could get
Just
that to
curious.
you.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head. You may hear from Addie and Gerard. My guess is it would be younger students, I think. But I don't know. I could pull that.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So I did, as I said, survey the faculty again this fall. And the percentage was like, wow, that's the exact same as last year. I think last year I said there were 87% of our faculty and staff who felt that students were now more engaged, and now it's 88%, so pretty much the same. But what was really heartening to me was seeing the next pie chart to the right there. I was like, left or right? Just that people are really feeling like this is getting better and better as we live into it. I think that, again, it's hard to roll something out. I think the students really felt last year like they were losing something. I think it was difficult at times to really get all students to get on board and put their phones up. I think teachers were having to spend more time reminding students, whereas this year it's become a little bit more like this is what we do. We come in, we put our phone in the caddy, we get to work. And so I'm really glad to see that, and the hope again is that we can remain consistent throughout the year, because I do think that's some of what happened last year too, is that we started out strong, and then, people get tired. And so we just need to keep it up throughout the year.
I wonder why the 8% it's more difficult to enforce this year?
I
If
know.
they're teaching different classes or have
Maybe, or different
makeup?
grade level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting as
Yeah.
well, but I didn't collect names, so I couldn't pull it up with anyone. And then lastly, I knew that there have been national conversations and state conversations about bell to bell, so I just wanted to I was already reading that, to poll our faculty and staff about this. Certainly the majority of faculty and staff would be in favor, but I thought that the open response were really interesting to me on both sides. I think that those in favor have some really good points. They absolutely, I would concur that students, we have to continually enforce this every day in every class with every student. And if you forget one day, you're jumping into the lesson because you've got a lot to cover that day, or you're really excited to teach them this new exciting topic. That's the opening, and students are always waiting for that opening. So I think that I don't disagree with the teachers on that. I think it's interesting too that one teacher noted like it's just hard when they have it during hallway time, then you got to take it away again. You're giving it to them, you're taking it away. And, also just the support for wanting students. I gave that example of walking into a room and everyone's on their phones, and like that can still happen at lunch with how things are now, instead of perhaps like chatting with your friends the way we used to do. That said, there were definitely staff too, I think, in the minority, but made some really compelling points as well about like the intention. And if the intention is that, that we're keeping focus in the classrooms and that students are focused on the objective of the lessons, the policy that we have now does accomplish that, while also allowing students to begin at this age, right? Where, students are now teenagers, they will be going off on their own soon after graduation and starting to build those skills to regulate themselves. And so giving them a little bit of that during lunch and during passing time. Also understanding that like sometimes they are actually communicating with parents, communicating with bosses. We do. We have a lot of students with jobs who are like talking to their boss about shifts. I've had situations where I've been like, get off your phone. And they're like, no, I'm texting. I'm like, no, you're not. And they're like, and I'm like, oh, you are talking about switching your shift tonight. Okay. So just some interesting things to consider for this conversation. And I will hand it over to Addie and Gerard for the student perspective.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cotton-Herman. So last year, Gerard sent out a survey, and this year we sent out a pretty similar one, but this year we had a lot more responses than last year, which was really good. So this is the chart that we have from last year. We used strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. And last year we had a lot of people disagreeing with the policy, as you can see.
Lots of purple.
Yeah. And then this year it was pretty split. I don't know. We'll talk about more about like what we've heard from like our peers and stuff and like different people in our grade, but the data was pretty much a lot different this year, which is better, definitely.
It's very drastic. You can
Yeah,
tell.
it's very different. We
There's
go
still
in-
a lot of people who don't agree with it.
Yeah,
I mean, I
definitely.
understand you're separating out strongly agree, disagree, and disagree, but flip back for 1 second, what was the total? Yeah.
It was like 75%
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
And then on the next slide, we just have like a breakdown that
This is-
Gerard will go through.
This is where I go. So again, last year we received a total of 181 responses when we sent out our cell phone policy survey, and I recall presenting it to you guys and giving you all that information. And then this year again, we received a total of 247 responses overall. There is a drastic change in agreement and disagreements with the policy. The first little paragraph you'll see is percentage and quantity of students who disagreed with the CPP, which stands for cell phone policy. Last year, 76.1% of the responses disagreed, which includes strongly disagree and disagree with the policy, while this year there was a drastic difference with 57.5% of the responses disagreeing. In simple terms, out of the 181 responses last year, 137 of them strongly disagreed with the policy, and out of the 247 responses this year, 142 of them strongly disagreed, which even though it's a lot of people who disagree, it's still a drastic change. Then the second little paragraph is about the percentage and quantity of students who agreed with the CPP. Last year, only 8.9% of the responses agreed with the policy, while this year, 17.8% of the responses agreed with the policy. In simple terms, out of the 181 responses, only 16 agreed with the policy, and out of the 247, only 44 agreed with the policy. And I believe it repeats under that.
New.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm a little lost.
15%
No.
neutral last year.
Give me 1 minute. I'm like, oh, that's neutral. There we go. I couldn't read that. Last year, 15% of the responses felt neutral about the policy, whilst this year, 24.7% of the responses felt neutral towards the policy. Again, this is 27 out of the 181 responses last year and 61 out of the 247 responses this year.
Okay, what the data is
That circle's not
showing.
supposed to be there.
Yeah. So some trends we've seen is that students have started to feel more accustomed to the policy, and students who disagree with the policy all share similar opinions as to why. On the slides after, we'll go into common themes that we saw. But students who have, those who agree have more individual ideas to why rather than people who disagree. And then most students want the policy to stay the same. I think a lot of students are understanding that the policy isn't going to be lessened or like taken away, so they just think that they'd rather it stay the same than be worse or more strict
Well, that
overall.
makes sense, because a
course.
bunch of young ladies asked me, they stopped me in the hall at open house, and they said, we don't want it to change. And I thought they meant they were like loving the cell phone policy.
That is not.
But now I see what they were telling me.
Don't make it stricter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the themes from the open responses. Some negative ones were safety and security concerns, wanting phones during ASB, having access to Wi-Fi, having free times for cell phone usage, specifically ASP, and then not having the ability to hold themselves accountable. No clue what they meant by that.
We don't trust them.
I'm thinking.
No, they're not practicing
I think
that
I'm
self-
thinking, of like not having the ability to hold themselves accountable is like if you are using your phone during school, like that's your fault, kind of like not getting your work done. I think that's what they're trying to say there, if I had to guess.
I would
And
agree.
Yeah, being able to like time budget yourself rather than having to do that.
And then some positive themes. It has been helping with cheating in a lot of classes. Students are paying attention and are less distracted, improving engagement and student interaction, and then social interactions have also improved. And overall improvements, which is observations made by staff and students. Student engagement has significantly improved. Student and staff acknowledgements of improvements in class participation and increases in social opportunities. Distractions have decreased. Certain students acknowledge that they are less prone to being distracted by their phones since they are up in the caddies, which in turn helps with class engagement and social opportunities. And then thanks to the policy, student opportunities to cheat have decreased substantially. Having no phones in class and not having access to the internet allows for this issue to be less major. That's also not
Okay, this
supposed to
one-
be there.
We can skip it then.
We can,
Skip
but
it.
we can also give our personal opinions here because we didn't really.
Yeah, let's
put-
just skip that and then give our personal opinions.
Okay, so.
My OCD is like,
Wait, should we? Okay.
Yeah, you
so,
can go to the next slide.
Okay, yeah. Wait, should we just?
But
do
did you
some-
say your personal opinions,
so-
and then I'll wrap things up.
what Addie and I think
Yeah.
people should acknowledge that the policy is a lot better than what other districts and states have. I mean, there's districts and states that have pouches,
Yeah.
which is a bell-to-bell ban, and no one, including us, doesn't. We don't want that. So, I honestly think students should acknowledge the fact that our policy is a lot more lenient than other districts.
Yes. I'm also seeing that, like, when talking to friends or different people in my classes and stuff, I do think that last year, like, my grade was definitely very angry with, like, the policy just because it was kind of new and, like, we'd already been in high school and, like, been able to use our phones and stuff, and that everybody was kind of just, like, pretty angry with it. But now this year, I feel like a lot of people are more neutral or just kind of agree with it. Like, a lot of people don't really mind because at the end of the day, like, we're in school doing school work. Like, I don't think that there is necessarily a lot of time for us to be on our phones or using our phones. And, like, during passing time, you can always use it, like, if you need to send a text or something or need to see stuff. But, like, honestly, we all, like, can communicate, like, through Gmail if we, like, really have a problem or anything like that. Like, I know I'm emailing my mom, like, a lot during the day to talk to her about different things. But I'm just kind of seeing that a lot of seniors this year are just kind of neutral about the policy. I know, like, definitely in my classes, there's been people who have been very stubborn. But, I mean, once a teacher tells somebody to put their phone up, I don't think people are really going to just keep, like, retaliating. I think what I've seen is people are mostly just putting their phones up.
Yeah, and so I think, you know, when Addie and Gerard and I met a few times, as we were kind of getting responses to both of our surveys and kind of talking about, you know, what we saw as the overall themes, and I think you've heard them tonight. Like, there's no doubt that there's better engagement, and it's been really beneficial, I think, for our students and for our school community, right? And so teachers have noticed too, like, students are more focused, the peer interactions are better, and, like, their classes are smoother because they're not constantly put your phone away, put your phone away, put your phone away. I think, as the students said very well, more students are agreeing with it, or at least, like, fine with it. They're neutral, right? And so they're complying more readily, which again makes it easier for the teachers to consistently enforce. You know, I think that there is that note from some staff about wanting to still, like, yep, we got to minimize this, but we do think we want to, like, teach students how to use their phones responsibly and scaffold that. But again, the overall message from me and from my office is just, like, the consistency is key. I know that the teachers also, their feedback is that, like, they will do it as long as they feel backed up by myself and Mr. Warmington and Mr. Alberti, that, like, we will enforce and follow through. And so we're all on the same page with that. I think it's been better in the second year. We still have those pieces that we have to address and the kids that we have to address on a case-by-case basis, as well as if there are teachers who are having trouble with that, supporting them with that classroom management piece. And so we're doing that on a case-by-case basis, but by and large, people are doing really well with it. Again, in all my walkthroughs, that's what I've been seeing. And then, I would say the one piece is like continuing to, ASP is the one time when like there's not the lesson objective on the board. It's a little bit more self-directed for many students. And so I think that is a time that we have to manage more. That's the hardest time in terms of like issues, I would say. But we're trying to address it when we see it.
For sure.
And then to end, overall themes, staff and students. With the cell phone policy in place, teachers have observed more engagement, better focus, improved peer interactions, and smoother classes, which we have already emphasized. Now it's in its second year, more students agree with the cell phone policy and are complying more readily. Faculty and staff know a need to balance minimizing distractions with students' real-life needs. And then continued consistency and enforcement is key, as students will continue to test limits.
And then our final slide.
Which is just questions.
Is questions. Do you have any?
No, that was great work, good research. I mean, it's tough to pick the brains of your classmates sometimes and
Yeah.
see who's going to be honest yeah. But I think it's what I would expect.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate the time
Mhm.
that you guys took to do it,
Yeah.
rather than just having Principal Cotton Herman come and tell us stuff. It's good
Yeah.
to get the student perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's great you had so much engagement too, so
Yeah.
people are taking it serious. It's obviously like a hot topic, right,
Yeah.
for discussion, so people want their voices heard, and I think, the student body is the most important voice to hear, so thanks for bringing that. I would be curious, both on the disciplinary and on the respondents, if you could break it out by grade level, like say, are you a freshman, sophomore, 9,
Yeah.
10, 11, 12, and same thing, because you're right, Addie, you weren't the first class to have it taken
Mhm.
away, or the second class to have
Yeah,
it taken away, but,
exactly.
I think in the middle school, it's going pretty well, and at
Mhm.
Alden, because you're starting them earlier with an expectation and consistency, so I'd just be curious, as we continue to review the policy and whether or not we need to make, where are the challenges? What grades are the teachers struggling with? Is it, you think maybe freshman, sophomore? I think Kelly and I were probably thinking more on the, upper
Older,
grade. but
yeah.
that
Well,
would be helpful.
I think I did misspeak, because in speaking with teachers, I would say, no, actually, the freshmen and the sophomores, because they're coming from the middle school where that's the
Yeah.
expectation, there's been less of a issue. I think what it is, though, is that when there's those one-off, that is often, because we've already dealt with that with the seniors, right? We've been working with them on that, so they're probably not repeat offenders.
that
Do you
to
know what I'm
happen
saying?
again.
I think
True.
overall, it is easier. The freshmen and sophomores, it's automatic. They put them in.
Yeah.
But I would guess that more freshmen and sophomores are being written up,
Yeah.
because I think the seniors and juniors have just given up. They're like, I'll just put it in the caddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
it's
it's not worth it.
so those one-off situations are
Yeah.
younger students, but yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, I feel like there's definitely last year there was a lot of pushback from people in my grade, and I saw it in all my classes and stuff. But this year, I think it's kind of understood that it is the expectation, and that it's not going anywhere, and there are consequences. And also, I feel like it's senior year, nobody wants to have homework, so everyone's just I'll just do my work, and nobody wants to have bad relationships with their teachers either. So I feel like people
Right.
are more likely to comply in my grade, definitely. Not really sure about yours.
I think
but-
there's a lot of growing up from freshman year to senior
Yeah,
year,
I
too.
definitely agree.
And when we polled our superintendent's advisory council, I would say we have a lot of sophomores on our council, and I feel like they're pretty unfazed by the cell phone
Yeah.
policy, because they're used to, last year, they
That's all
had the
they had.
policy, and at
Yeah.
the middle school, so I think they don't have such strong feelings about it, because they know this is what they've lived with all through middle school and high school so far.
I'll just say my other thought, I guess, so for your slide that you had the bell to bell, the pro and the con, I hadn't honestly thought about, having kids learn how to, like, having some sort of management of, so not
Yeah,
doing
it's
bell to
hard.
bell, right?
Yeah.
You do have real life, you're gonna have to manage all the dings and things that come your way. But I also wonder the burden on the staff, because they
Yeah.
get tired of, if we forget to remind the kids, they're not gonna, and some of them maybe will go do it on their own, right? But I just think that's something for us to continue to get feedback from the teachers
Yeah.
on really how hard is it to all row in the same boat, but have to continue to remind day after
Reset.
day. Would it be
Yeah.
more effective to just make it worse, but bell to bell, which is why I'm like so curious what
Yeah.
the grade.
I think
grade by
there's,
grade
I think there's
feedback is,
compelling
too.
arguments,
Yeah. Yeah.
both way, and
Yeah.
I think we can continue the conversation.
That'd be great.
Also see what the state does.
Yeah, well, that too. We don't have a choice.
But, yeah, and I would be happy to, I feel like this year we don't have a big enough data set of referrals, but like maybe mid-year, I could pull the disciplinary data, and it's easy for us to look at grade-wise where those are.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Good? Okay. All right. Next up is FY '27 capital budget presentation. Who is this? You? Katie?
I think Lisa's going to take the lead on this, and we have Katie St. Clair, our Director of Facilities for the Town and School Department, and Mike Woodford, our Chief Technology Officer for the Town and School with us, because these are the two people who have the most expensive needs in keeping our town and school buildings up and running. So they have really big jobs and work really hard to make sure that they have updated the school and town needs in terms of facilities and technology. So, Ms. Lisa, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
We're just
All right.
opening candy bags.
Open your candy, make yourselves
All right.
comfortable.
Makes me
Enjoy.
nice. Ooh.
So tonight, we're going to go over our fiscal '27 capital budget requests. So we're just going to jump right in. Our process, this is our first step in our annual budget process. Capital requests typically originate from the Director of Facilities and the Chief Technology Officer and include input from the building principals. Once the school committee votes on their prioritized capital needs, on the school department's capital needs for FY '27, which will occur on November 5th, the school department capital request will then be presented to the fiscal advisory committee on November 12th. And then, per the Town of Duxbury financial management policies, 60 days prior to town meeting, there is to be a joint meeting of the select board, finance committee, fiscal advisory, and school committee to review the entire capital plan.
That hasn't traditionally happened.
I was going to say.
Yeah. However, that is part of the financial policies for the town, so something we will be speaking about throughout the process.
Allowable capital expenses. So in Massachusetts, eligible school department capital budget items are primarily for long-term, non-recurring expenses related to school facilities, major equipment and infrastructure. Allowability is governed by Mass General Law, Chapter 44 and Chapter 70, with oversight by agencies such as the Mass School Building Authority, the MSBA, which we refer to frequently. Common school department eligible capital items include building construction and renovation, major repairs and maintenance, equipment including technology, furniture, curriculum, and vehicles with a useful life of 5 years or more, physical infrastructure improvements, accessibility and environmental modifications, or feasibility study, engineering design services, or consultant services, which are ancillary to a future capital improvement project. And that is from also our Town of Duxbury financial management policies. We have 3 budget categories that we typically operate under. Capital light, which are requests for goods or services under $25,000. Capital equipment, one-time and frequent tangible asset purchases with a useful life of 5 years or more in costing more than $25,000. And capital projects, which are projects that maintain or improve existing school assets. Our capital budget framework includes a 5-year plan, which is linked on the slide deck. It's reviewed annually to align with the district's goals and prioritize needs. We use an asset-based replacement model, which supports systemic replacement of critical equipment to avoid unexpected failures. For instance, technology, devices, access points, things of that nature. And then a predictable replacement schedule, which provides structure for budgeting, timely implementation, and sustained operations. So our process includes the 5-year capital plan. We review the plan and define new projects or needs each year. We solicit feedback from our stakeholders, prioritize expenditures, and allocate across multiple phases for multi-year initiatives. The next slide is just a snapshot of the requests or the approved capital projects and equipment that we've received over 25 and 26. So FY25, we received just over $2.1 million in capital funding, and in FY26, we received, I believe that's $870,000, $670,000, sorry. I'm blind. Next slide, please. This is, again, a little bit of a snapshot. Last year, we had, and we've noticed this over, this trend over the last number of years, we have significant capital needs, facilities-wise and technology-wise. Last year, our request was, I believe, closer to the $2 million range, and we were fortunate that the town was able to fund a number of our initial capital projects using ARPA funds. So after the ARPA funds, the $670,000 is what was funded from free cash. So we have completed or are in process of completing the majority of the projects. We implemented the CKLA elementary literacy curriculum. We have on order and are awaiting access points, which fell under the technology needs for this year. We have funding that was received for roof repairs, which is ongoing. Facility abatement, also ongoing. We are currently in year 2 of 4 of our grade 6 to 12 Chromebook lease. And then the ARPA-funded projects were a variety of repairs at Alden for $485,000, which included a roof project. We were able to replace the Chandler and Alden PA systems. We were able to complete phase 1 of the security phases that we had been working on, and also fund an additional phase 2 project for $200,000. We were able to do an additional roof section, so we've done 3 roof sections over the last 2 years, I believe. And lastly, we were able to address the bird nesting issue over at Chandler with ARPA funding as well. This slide, and I think the next, this slide shows this is our total needs for fiscal 27. Total $6.9 million. We know that we cannot do all of this, so we prioritized our priorities, and we were able to come up with a list of facilities item or capital items totaling $3.175 million. Of those includes a feasibility study for Alden. HVAC specifically this year would be replacing exhaust fans at Chandler. The math curriculum that was for that we requested for fiscal 26 that was not funded. We are in need of refreshing our staff laptop devices. We are also, we added on here just for visibility and transparency is year 3 of 4 for the current Chromebook lease, and an additional funding request for roofs. We are finding that we are always going to ask for roof money. The needs are significant. Do you want to talk?
Do you want me to do this part? And so, as you'll notice, we have added the feasibility study for the Alden School Building Project to our capital requests. We, just as a reminder, are in the eligibility phase of the MSBA process, and what that means is that our statement of interest that we submitted twice was accepted, and we were advanced into the eligibility phase. In order to be advanced into the eligibility phase, we needed to have support from our select board as well as the school committee, which we had on both occasions that we were working on the draft of the statements of interest. And so, as a reminder to those of you that may not be familiar with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, This is a highly competitive process. As you can imagine, there are hundreds of school buildings across the Commonwealth that are in need, but our project has been deemed a priority by the state. And when we were accepted into the eligibility phase back in 2024, there were 119 districts that submitted statements of interest, and 22 were accepted into the eligibility pipeline. Of the 22 districts that were invited into eligibility in 2024, 6 communities have already committed to funding for their feasibility studies. So of the towns that were accepted into eligibility at the same time we were, 6 communities have already voted to support the feasibility study. In most communities, you would see that they have this as a warrant article on their town meeting warrant, where communities would vote to raise, appropriate, borrow, or transfer funds from available funds. That's typically how feasibility studies are approved, as an article on the town meeting warrant, where those funds would be coming from town funds to be able to do the architectural and the deep study of your building. And Duxbury has traditionally funded their feasibility studies through town funds. So when I did a little bit of research, I was looking at school communities that are currently in the feasibility phase, or school districts that are currently in a later phase where they might be in schematic design or looking at building designs. And I couldn't find one example of a town that did not fund a feasibility study with town funds. I couldn't find one example of a town that required the school department to go through a debt exclusion. And I looked back at previous projects that were through MSBA in town, which included the DPW building, our town buildings, and the DMS DHS building that was built, and I believe it was a 2009 town meeting. All of those projects for feasibility studies were funded through town funds and were on the annual town meeting warrant. And so that is why we felt it was appropriate to put this on as a prioritized capital need, rather than having this go through a debt exclusion process where we would be requiring residents to increase their taxes temporarily to be able to fund this, this feasibility study. Given the budget constraints that the community is in, that doesn't seem like a very likely way for this project to be able to continue on. And I would just add that down the road, if this feasibility study is able to take place, we will have comprehensive report and information about Alden School, including the building infrastructure, the systems, all of the different components that we have concerns about, and we'll have a much clearer picture on what the repair needs would be in the next 10 years, which we don't currently have right now, because we have just, Garland has done roof reports, so we have different reports, but nothing comprehensive that would really be able to predict for us what would the town's anticipated capital repair costs would be. And so our recommendation is that we have the community vote once on a new school project for Alden, and that would be once we have all the information that we need about the current building. And then we would be able to bring to the community a vote of whether or not the community was interested or had an appetite for another building project, where that would be a debt exclusion at that time.
I'm sorry, I'm 8 hours late. Can I ask a question now, or do you want to wait till
Of course.
after? Okay. So who makes the decision that we fund this feasibility study through a debt exclusion and not funded through the town, like a stabilization fund or something?
That's a really good question. So we've had some building committee meetings. We have John Lemieux from our community is serving as the Alden School Building Committee Chair. And we've only had preliminary conversations, but what we've heard from the town is that the recommendation at this time is that this feasibility study be funded through a debt exclusion.
Who's the town?
The town manager and our town finance director.
Okay.
So nothing's been decided officially, and so that's why we were doing a little bit of research. When we heard debt exclusion, it kind of made me pause to think. I don't think traditionally that's how you see feasibility studies funded, so that's when I started to do a little research.
I agree, but is there a bylaw or something? Like who at the end of the day is sort of the decider of how a feasibility study would get funded? Who makes that final decision? You may not know, but I think that's something we should find out.
I agree. I would recommend that we, as Alden School Building Committee and possibly a school committee go before the select board to ask that very question before we have too many more Alden School Building Committee meetings without knowing the
Yep.
correct manner. And I was thinking that perhaps we could either go before the select board, or I had hoped to be able to invite a select board representative, a fiscal advisory representative, and a finance committee representative to an Alden School Building Committee meeting. And so that was sort of my recommendation as next steps at this stage that we're at right now here in October.
Okay.
And the school committee might have a different recommendation, but we'll certainly take your feedback if you think that the Alden School Building Committee being requesting to be put on the select board agenda, it would be the appropriate first step, or if you think inviting other town committees to our building committee meeting would be most appropriate. Please just let us know what your thoughts are.
Well, my thoughts are that, past this precedent and a feasibility study should be funded through a funding mechanism through the town, through the town's resources, to your earlier point. I don't think that a feasibility study should be presented as a debt exclusion, because the really big sort of voter decision is going to be made on whether we make eventual repairs or replacement to Alden. I don't know of a feasibility study in the past, at least in Duxbury, that's been funded through a debt exclusion and a ballot question. So I think, to me, it signals that if we unfortunately went down this road without any discussion around it and it just happened that we had to fund it through as a debt exclusion, I think that it would probably unintentionally signal that the town really doesn't support, that the town doesn't support a refurbishment to Alden School. So I don't know. I'd like to know, first of all, who makes that sort of final decision. And what I don't know what to do, but what I do know what not to do, and that's just to let this decision happen with inaction. And it sounds like it's happening, or it's moving in the direction of happening on the recommendation of the finance director and the town manager, and I'm not sure that that's appropriate either. So I would agree with the ideas that you brought up. I'm not even sure if the select board is aware of it, but I'd love to get their feedback on it. I think that the town sort of deserves to know their feedback on that question.
Well, and I think, Matt, to your point, I mean, I think the issue, we use all these words, and I don't know that people always understand what they are. So I think we want to be careful and maybe have a time when all of these things, debt exclusion versus town funds. I mean, again,
Right.
people who sit in these meetings understand that. But just for clarity, debt exclusion is where it, to your point, hits the tax bill. So I guess precedent, to me, is the most telling here, which you've clearly already done the research on, so that's important. But I think the other piece of this is that something that I have struggled with since the beginning is that, this process was approved by the committee. It was approved, meaning just the application process. Yes, we want the schools to do this. Yes, this is important to us. This is how, the path forward for how we determine what we're going to do about our building. And to your point, the build project is the decision the town makes. We don't even, without a feasibility study, you don't even know what the next steps are. And so in my mind, and again, precedent seems to suggest that, you have to get the information you need to bring it to the town for them to decide whether or not we remodel, build a new building, whatever that is. So to stop a process because it's a debt exclusion, and have the voters decide that just doesn't seem quite like it makes sense. Nor has any other building project in the past been managed that way. So I think the current fiscal climate is obviously, in my mind, probably influencing people's perspectives on how they would like this to be managed. But I don't think that is a reasonable, that should not be informing the decision-making on this particular piece. So, I mean, I think the select board, we need to unpack this whole process and do for everyone what you just did for us. And that the building committee, which I am no longer on, Kelly, lucky duck.
First call tomorrow.
Obviously needs to be involved in that process, and we as committee members, I think, I want to attend whatever meeting that is. But I think it needs to be elevated quickly, because if you just continue to have meetings as a building committee
Right.
Before we elevate this and figure out what your path is as the building committee, then it's wasted time.
I agree. And we have not only gone before the select board twice to request their signature and explain the process, but we went a third time over the summer to, again, remind the select board that this was happening, that we are in eligibility phase at this point, that our statement of interest was accepted. And just to clarify for anyone who may be watching this meeting and isn't familiar with the terms debt exclusion, if this project were put on the town meeting ballot as a debt exclusion for funding, it would need to pass at town meeting, and then it would need to go to the ballot in the town election. Whereas if we were to have this feasibility study process move forward the way all other feasibility studies have moved forward in Duxbury, it would be on the town meeting ballot. And if that passed, the town would be able to move forward without an election and without raising people's tax rate this year to be able to do the feasibility study. The feasibility study would be funded from current available town funds, whether it's through raise, appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds. So it would not be a tax increase to taxpayers to say yes to the feasibility study. And again, they would have that decision down the road where if they wanted to fund a school building, whether it's a full rebuild or a renovation, that would be the time when it would be not only having to pass at town meeting, but also at the ballots again in the town election.
So to be clear, having it as part of a capital request essentially is just within the capital budget, and it is passed as in its entirety. You're not picking out line items and pieces of the budget, so it becomes part of our capital request that comes from the town.
Right.
And it's passed at town meeting as part of the budget,
Yes.
not as a ballot, right?
Correct.
Just,
But fiscal advisory can pick apart our capital request.
sure, but what I mean is, once it goes in the warrant at the annual town meeting,
Yes,
it's part of a
it's
capital
all-
budget.
yes.
It's not an individual item that people
Correct.
can yay or nay, which
Mhm.
is very different.
I mean, my opinion is I would love to have people come to us. So it's not, oh, we're going to the select board, oh, we didn't know this, or we know this, but we really need to check with FinCom, or we really need to check with Mary, or, you know, but we're voting on our budget in December. So we have October 22nd, November 5th.
You're
really.
scheduled to vote on your capital budget November 5th, ahead of our appearance at fiscal advisory. However, if you don't feel as though you'll have enough information at that time, we certainly could have you vote the capital at the same time as the operating budget at your December meeting. And we
Okay.
would just be going before the fiscal advisory committee on November 12th without having you making your final vote at that. You wouldn't have made your final vote at that time yet.
Well, so I guess the question is, how would the board like to proceed? Do we want to invite people here or go to a select board meeting?
I think it would be best to get on the select board agenda and open it up for discussion and present, you know, the historical feasibility studies that you've done the research, and I am happy to help with that as well, because I think it would be good to have clarity at the town level from that group, and at least allow them to discuss and ask questions. I mean, I think there isn't a set answer yet, but that initial feedback that you've received, debt exclusion, doesn't, I'm not sure, I'd also be curious what the, like, why that versus what has been the norm in the past, and what sounds like it would be the right process to do what has historically been done, as you mentioned on your slide here, raise, appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds. And I think the best venue to do that in would be the select board versus inviting them into your building committee, because those are the same people that are kind of already on board, if you will. Timing-wise, though, I don't know how challenging it is to get on their agenda with all the constraints, but I agree with you guys that we probably can't march too much more forward unless we have this part clarified.
I mean, if we vote, I mean, to Matt, to your point, we always talk about, like, the committee, you know, we operate as a body, and if we vote to include this in our capital requests without, I mean, we can do that, but if that information comes as like a surprise to people or isn't unpacked before that, I think that is probably not in the best interest of the overarching
agree.
goal.
With that.
And
So I
they,
think we probably won't be prepared for sure to vote November 5th on the Capitol.
Right.
I'd like to hear, just to hear more about kind of how you get this done, what the recommendation is.
I would like to hear why this decision was made.
Yeah.
And I would like to hear that directly from the select board. And my suspicion is they don't know. That's my suspicion. I mean, I listened to their meetings. This hasn't been brought up in one of their meetings. It seems to me that this has been brought up in private meetings involving the finance director and the town manager. So I would like to hear from the select board with a suspicion that they're going to be caught off guard. They're going to be caught off guard. I think it's super unfortunate and super frustrating that we're finding ourselves now in this meeting having to describe the difference between a debt exclusion and and drawing from a stabilization fund or free cash, because a path has been sort of laid out without any involvement from the school committee or from what I know, the select board. Maybe the select board knows something that I don't know. But I'd really like to understand whether that body directed the town manager and the finance director to, have this feasibility study. First time to my knowledge, first time a feasibility study would be put up to a town vote. So I think that we should. I think that we should present this to the select board, but not as an ask. I think it's incumbent on the select board to explain their position.
Okay.
Okay.
Then Danielle and I can write to the select board and ask to be put on either the end of October or
As
in
soon as
November.
possible.
Soon as
And
possible.
that's the chair
Possible,
of the
yeah.
Alden School Building
I think-
Committee as
Alright.
well. So
Okay.
John Lemieux would be
Yep.
part of that conversation.
And I mean, whether it's,
We'll
I guess it's
post
up
it.
to the finance committee and the fiscal advisory whether they choose to participate. I'm assuming they'll be paying attention, but it might be beneficial.
Well, that's my concern.
Well, I think it would be beneficial to make sure that everyone is aware that this is what's going to be discussed. I hope they're looking at the select board agendas. I mean, we do, but maybe a note to those two committees as well.
We can do that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank
This is just another slide about the eligibility period. So it lasts 270 days. As we've explained at multiple meetings, the MSBA process can take anywhere from multiple submissions of a statement of interest and then 5 to 7 years from start to finish. And a feasibility study is just to explain what that is, an engineering design, which are ancillary to a future capital improvement project. So we will, no matter what, if this feasibility study goes forward, have some really great information about the Alden building, because I feel like Lisa, Katie, and I frequently get asked, what else is going to need to be repaired at the Alden School next? And I think we know what we can see, but there's lots of things that are hidden behind the walls and in the systems that we don't necessarily, we can't predict the lifespan and what might happen next. So this will be a really good way for us to take proper care of our asset, which is this building. The next couple of slides, we just go into a little bit more detail about the prioritized capital requests. And so, Dr. Wilcox, would you like to speak about this slide?
Yes, this is a request that was brought forth last year, and we are bringing it to the school committee again as a request to continue to bring in IM math at the high school level. So we have programming in Algebra 1 as well as the middle school for IM math, and we would like to continue to bring that to the high school, which aligns with our strategic plan, which is building coherence with our curriculum, and also looking at the practices and the components of the math program that build on the math practices that we value.
The next slide, we talk about our technology requests, and Mike, if it's okay, could I turn things over to you to just kind of give the committee an update? I know you've been working hard to update. Mike and I were speaking earlier today, and Mike is back in Duxbury after a brief hiatus. And before he left, he had created a really comprehensive long-term capital replacement plan, and he's been working hard to update that so that we have a predictable system to be able to know when and what to expect for technology expenses. So, Mike.
How about now? Ooh, that's better.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. So thank you very much. Yes. So one of the pieces that I've been working on since my return to town has really been looking at long-term capital replacement for the school district. Our staff laptops are going into the end of the 5th year. They will be 6 years at the beginning of next school year. So generally, the accepted life cycle for end user workstations is 3 to 5 years. In the privatized sector, there's a lot of push to try to replace them every 3 years or so. We try to be as responsible as possible, so we try to move them to the 5-year mark. But we've really reached the point with these laptops, the MacBook Airs for the staff, where they won't be able to receive security updates or any kind of OS updates moving forward. So it's really important that we get some support to replace these for our staff. They live on these things every day. So
This is supposed to be a 4. I'm just going to, it was correct on the other slide where we showed the overall cost. Sorry about that, Mike.
no worries.
Oh, now I changed this on the wrong slide. This was 3.
And are the teachers still using iMacs, MacBooks? Or
MacBooks.
they-
Yep, they're still on MacBook Airs, yes.
So I thought.
Why are the staff ones cheaper over a 5-year period? Or I guess students are 4 years and the staff is 5 years. So it'd be
Students are
essentially-
currently 4 years, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really a Chromebook device versus a Mac or a PC, right? And what that longevity looks like. You get a little more out of the Mac. In general, just in terms of the hardware, it tends to be more of a premium product than a lot of PCs, or especially affordable Chromebooks that are mostly plastic, if that makes sense.
So staff gets Mac?
Yes.
And student Chromebook?
Yep.
Okay.
One of the reasons for that too is that we can project from the MacBooks with all the Apple TVs in the district too. So that's just one reason that we have some software that the teachers can use on the Macs that the students used to be able to have, but the device replacement was super expensive when all the students had the MacBook Airs,
Okay.
which was the first, back in the day when we first went one-to-one.
Right.
And is this replacement, is there a reason we wouldn't do leases for staff? I'm sure there is. I'm just curious.
I suppose it just depends, you know what I mean, what the appetite is. I think we need to replace the devices regardless of how we do it. If it would be, a lease year over year, like we're doing for the Chromebooks at this point. Traditionally, we've tried to replace them all at once, just to kind of take that cost on and be done with it, so to say.
So this is assuming, should not put that rubber bill in my mouth. This is assuming that, or you're saying the cost wouldn't be that different. The 400,000 would be spread over time if we were to lease, or?
If we were to lease, yes, it would be spread over time, for sure. Depends on how we strategically look at that, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the end dollar amount is
Right,
the
and
same.
which budget, right?
Right. Got it. Okay.
Mike, did you just want to share what you've shared with us in that the infrastructure and access point and switches that the town has, and the school committee have prioritized as an investment over the past few years are really okay for now, so that's why we don't have a lot of those other pieces that we've seen in past years?
Yeah, I think it's all based on, what the accepted life cycle of the equipment is, right? And we have a ton of technology equipment, obviously. The access points are wireless access points that basically produce the Wi-Fi signal that all of our students and staff connect to every day so that they can teach and learn. And we've maintained over the last several years and prior to that kind of a good schedule, and we've been able to replace all that equipment when it needs to be replaced based on end of life or end of support from the vendor. So as Dr. Klingerman's saying, like the infrastructure at this point in general, the wired and wireless networking and where our security sits, like our firewalls at the perimeter of our network, are all in good shape in terms of where they sit within their life cycle right now.
Katie?
Before
do you
we
have any more
move on to
questions?
Katie, I
Yeah.
just have one question back on the math slide, not about the number. That was either way. I know Ms. Cotton Herman shared the results this evening and in your newsletter this week about the high school math MCAS being really, really good. And I believe I saw the middle school is improved, but not really, really good yet. And I completely appreciate illustrative math is in its year 2, so they're similar to cell phones, right? Learning curve first year, we'll start to see the results. Something to think about as we continue to have a discussion about whether we bring this curriculum into the high school is, if it's not broke, do we, like, what are the real benefits of spending $400,000 to bring a curriculum into a school that is already performing really well, if we're looking just at numbers, which we know that's what the people who aren't in this every day are looking at. What's your ranking, right? And rankings should be taken with 10 grains of salt. I don't want an answer now, but it's just something I'm thinking about as a parent and community, like fiscally. Okay, that's a big number to spend. Do we need it? If so, like, what are really those benefits we can tie, and also at the same time continuing to kind of defend or support the implementation in the middle school is working, even though we're not necessarily seeing it on paper today in this first year of results. So
I think that's a great question. When I first think about that, I think about the investment that we are making into the curriculum in its entirety. So looking at the high school, my next thought would be not this year because we're implementing a new reading program, but what are we doing at our elementary level?
That was my question.
And so I do believe that we need to always be looking at what we're doing. We have great scores. We want to celebrate that. I'd also like to celebrate the hard work of the students and the teachers, and the supports that we put into place at the middle school and the high school that were not there 5 years ago, perhaps. So there's been a lot of different systems that have been put into place over the past few years as well. But there are always ways that you can improve, and this is one way that we believe is an investment for our students at the high school. And looking at what is happening at the elementary school, what programs we have at the elementary school as well, and what are some investments that we could make at the elementary schools down the road. So I appreciate the questions and your thoughts, and we'll certainly think more about that. But just initially, those are that's the reasoning behind it, in addition to the ties to the strategic plan, and ensuring that our students, regardless of which class they're in or which building they're in, they're receiving the highest quality instruction as well as the resources that we can provide. So I believe that it's our responsibility, or my responsibility, just to share what our recommendations are to move us forward even more than where we are right now.
great, thank you.
I would just add too, we're already using illustrative math in the high school classes that are doing Algebra 1. We're doing Algebra 1 at the middle school as well. And so this would be, the alignment with the strategic plan is that we are working to have vertically aligned curriculum and inquiry-based hands-on approaches to teaching whenever possible, which that illustrative math does. But I think Beth and I have been talking about your question, and I think it would be helpful for us to be able to make a slide or something to be able to depict, if we're doing so well in math, why do we need to change something? And I think there's a number of reasons. So it's great that you brought it up, because we've been talking about that. People might be wondering why, and so, including the teachers.
Yep. Okay. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, go ahead.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Again.
So we had an assessment done of all the roofs a little bit ago, right before I started, I believe. Anyway, so we took that assessment and we've been chipping away at the roofs. What we're also doing is we're internally inspecting the roof. Unfortunately for myself, I've been on the roof an awful lot recently, checking things out and making sure leaks are actually leaks. And so we decided that we wanted to go to take care of some of the pack roofs. If you look, we have a big schedule of when the roof replacements need to be done on each of the locations on all the campuses. And this one has moved up because the insulation is starting to get wet underneath the roofing. So we've moved this one forward ahead of schedule. And so that's how we picked this.
Those are both PAC, right? Sorry. Those are
Yeah,
both
it's the PAC.
The PAC roof.
Yep. So we have several exhaust fans at the Chandler School that are not working. Various reasons: age, motors, belts, electrical, many, many reasons. So instead of doing one or two a year, I'd like to just attack them all, get them all working, and then we can maintain them. Right now, they're not maintainable. We don't have enough staff, enough funding to just pick away at them. And so that's why we're
Can you
asking
just
for the exhaust fans.
Give a little, like, high-level helicopter view of exhaust fans and what
So
they do
when
and
the-
why 42 out of 60 is not great.
You didn't employ me.
I-
No, so.
Too late to the party.
Right. No, so part of the thing that you have to understand with the exhaust fans, when the exhaust fans aren't working, everything else is working harder. So you're putting more loads on all of your HVAC equipment. Some of your equipment, we did spend like $850,000 a few years ago to upgrade a lot. We didn't upgrade everything. So there is a lot of equipment over there that's still 1968 original to the building. So now we're asking that equipment to work double what it was intended to work. Class sizes since 1968, I am sure, have increased dramatically. So just think of the load that you're asking that. You wouldn't fill your car with a bunch of concrete blocks and ask it to ride. That's what we're doing to the equipment at Chandler.
Free. Thank you.
Okay, in summary, for a detailed district capital plan, please refer to the upcoming FY27 budget book. You did receive a draft of this capital section in the folder for this evening. This year's prioritized capital needs represents only 45% of the school department's actual requests from department heads. For more information on capital and the budget, please visit the Duxbury Public Schools Business and Finance webpage. Safe facilities, working technology, and high-quality instructional materials are core components of any public school district, as evidenced with the requests that we put forward this year.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? We're getting it done.
And for anyone listening at home that may not be here in person, I will be putting this up on the website tomorrow, along with a link to our 5-year capital plan that is linked in the presentation as well.
Yeah, it's good to have that.
Do you mean, by this, do you mean the presentation? or
Excuse
do you
me,
mean
the presentation,
the
yes.
budget book, okay.
The budget presentation.
Yes.
The budget book is not ready for primetime viewing just yet.
Got it.
It's just, that section is just a draft at the moment to support what we've done here.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, going to F, because we kind of combined D and E. Policy maintenance plan.
Well, I'm glad I made this meeting.
Yeah.
I was ready to
I was-
stand
were
it.
I
you
tried
gonna
to
stand in?
remind everybody at every opportunity. I should have sent out a text.
Why are we meeting at 4 again today? I forgot.
2 kids' birthdays.
Oh, birthdays.
And
Oh.
also, now
Not
there's
mine.
well,
Got it.
yeah.
And we're also doing a,
Squeezing in a
Sorry, I didn't mean
strategic-
to like out anybody. Sorry about that.
and we're doing a focus group.
I always put the meeting on my calendar at
Oh,
4
why can I not see
so that I have time to prepare. So it didn't occur to me that we had
to
had
be
it. I
here.
should have put it at
Actual
2,
Yeah.
which would have bumped into my actual work. But
Well, I
you're
should've
not
texted
interested
you.
in that, and neither is the public. Am I right?
I don't know,
Okay,
I
you're
think they
interested.
care.
Okay.
They care deeply.
All right, well, I had, would you like me to kick this off, Kelly? Because I had asked to have it put
Yes,
on the
please.
agenda. Okay. So in addition to what you're pulling up, Dr. Klingenman, could I ask you to also just go to the district website on a separate tab and pull up our, the school committee goals and objectives? That actually might be a good place to start this discussion, and it should be really quick. Yeah, you got it right there. And just go down to the bottom, goal 3. Okay, so here's what inspired me to ask for this agenda item and to ask for it now. So we just approved, school committee just approved our goals a couple of meetings ago. If you look at the very last bullet under Goal 3 is align committee operations to support systemic improvement. And we added a bullet at our goals meeting that by June 2026, the committee will establish a prioritized policy review schedule. It is October, that's not lost on me. However, we've been having some discussions in some recent school committee meetings about policy creation or about policy maintenance. And I had been sort of like thinking about our discussions after the discussions. And I think one of the things that's been brought up in a few meetings is that we should consider having like a standing policy discussion in every meeting. And one of the things that I've sort of has been reinforced with me in the workshops that we've had over the summer is I think that that is a dangerous path to go down, to have like a standing policy discussion, because if a member were to take advantage of the standing policy discussion in a meeting and say, hey, I've been thinking about it and I think we need to update the policy on tobacco use or something like that, all of a sudden the committee without an agenda item is talking about our policy on tobacco use. So I think it's cool in theory, but I'm not in practice. I think that it would really put us in a position where we'd be flouting open meeting law. So what I decided to do and to present to you folks is an idea on how the policy subcommittee can endeavor to prioritize its policy work, and B, to give the school committee members an opportunity offline to look at the work that we've prioritized, and if anyone feels like a particular policy should be put higher priority or lower priority, they could ask our chair to put it on the agenda and make an adjustment. So this, what you're looking at on screen, which I don't believe is in the packet, and I don't believe it has made it into the Google Drive on our meeting. So
It's there now.
okay, but that's okay. So what I'll ask, if we can just have our secretary, without objection, add these to the packet
Yes.
after the fact so that we can post these publicly so everyone can see them. So what you're looking at is all of our 280 some odd policies listed alphabetically by code. And I just took a stab at creating some sort of strategic direction for how the policy subcommittee could begin to look at the pipeline and work the pipeline. So another document that didn't make it in that I will share with Kristen so that it can also make it in the packet is just a key. Could you bring that back up?
Do you want me to bring the other key from yesterday's
The
meeting?
matrix key? Yeah,
Yep.
if you have it, that'd be great.
Policy prioritization, third from the bottom.
Isn't the
Well, no,
key-
that's the thing. I don't think you have it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's okay. You can just put that back up that
Yeah.
you had.
Sorry, everybody.
That's okay. We met really early today, so we have all sorts of time. Okay, good. So I just created some, these are not sacrosanct. These are just sort of like in the spirit of coming up with a suggestion that we can tear apart or accept or revise. So you'll see that the very far right column has a priority drop down to it, high, medium, or low, okay? So what I decided to suggest is that we come to an agreement that we assign a high priority to any policy that either has not been reviewed in over 5 years or has a status on it that says date not recorded. So for those of you who've been following along, for years and years and years, no one recorded the dates when we updated policies. So we, quite frankly, don't know how old they are. So if it's marked as date not recorded, which you can see in the last updated column, or it's over 5 years old, I would recommend that we make that policy a high priority. I'd recommend that we assign a medium priority to policies that have been reviewed in the last 3 to 5 years. So these are some kind of old, but not, Meryl Streep old. Then low priority would be policies that have been reviewed or revised in the last 1 to 2 years. But that alone I don't think is sufficient, because that is not necessarily doesn't, I think, hit the strategic category as much as it does hit the time category. So what I also decided to present to you was a strategic alignment column. And so I just went ahead and I just assigned So we have, the school committee has its goals, the superintendent has her goals, and we're in the 4th year of our strategic plan. So each of these policies has connective tissue to one of those or more of those 3 things. Okay? So you can see that, for example, the very first policy, very exciting, school district legal status, that would coincide with our school committee goals under operations. So if any school committee member outside of a meeting wanted to look at this matrix and say, like, you know what, I don't think that we've looked at Dr. Klingeman's goals, like, you know, recently enough, and what are the policies that align with Dr. Klingeman's goals? Oh my God, look at that one. Date's not been recorded. I want to bring that to a meeting and have a discussion around assigning that to the policy subcommittee, like toot sweet. They should be working on that one. So this is just a tool. All this is a tool for our members to be able to very quickly audit what's in the pipeline, have some basic rules of the road on what informs the pipeline, and then be able to make a suggestion. And then last but not least is the second to last column is mask alert. So if you wouldn't mind just scrolling down till you can find something. So, okay, so MASC, not every month, but more or less once a month or once every other month, they will publish a newsletter where they show us what policies they have updated. So if MASC updates a policy, so the last policy update, their MASC newsletter policy update was August, okay? So what I did is I took the half dozen or so policies that were updated in August and I marked them yes, and if appropriate, I put a parenthetical that said they updated the language only, or there's a deadline on this one, which I think was graduation requirements, right? So if MASC, so my last suggestion is that if MASC, we have an alert system on that column, and if MASC has updated it, we would elevate it to high if it's not high already, but if it has a date assigned to it, like graduation requirements, we would assign that critical, because that's like blah, blah, blah. It's got to be done like yesterday. So that's the idea. It's you know, it's just an idea for members to feel like they're better informed, to have a little bit of sort of strategic direction associated with this pipeline, so that every member can feel like his or her voice can be heard in a meeting if they feel like a particular policy needs to be addressed. So that's sort of part one, but I'll stop and take a breath because Kathy was only introduced to this yesterday in our policy subcommittee
And
meeting.
Dr. Klingeman, I'm sorry to make you do this, but can you go back to our goals one more time?
Yeah.
Just to read that now that we kind of have the map. So, committee will, which one is it? The
Last bullet.
last bullet. Oh, yeah. By June 26th, the committee will establish a prioritized policy review schedule. So Matt presented this yesterday in our policy subcommittee meeting. And I do think what he has presented and shared this evening gives us the roadmap to establish the prioritized policy review schedule, and it breaks out MASC as kind of first priority, right? When they send things, we really need to elevate those. What we talked about yesterday, for example, is a lot of those old ones that we don't know the last time they've been reviewed, and it's a challenge to get through one or two policies in even one or two meetings, which happen once a month, and then we do a first read here and a second read, and so it's an overwhelming project. But what's not overwhelming with it broken out that way, in my mind, is it wouldn't be so hard to do a side-by-side look at what we have, now that it's kind of like mapped out, look at what MASC has online, have our own, research to knock through some of those, provide no opinions, right? But just like, our wording matches exactly. Our wording is different. Let's throw this on. You could almost do like a consent kind of agenda of like, oh, checked it, November of 25. Our language matches MASC language as of November 1, 2025, and update, because there's a lot that hasn't been reviewed for good reason, because I think we just get prioritized very quickly with whatever the issues are. So I think it's very helpful. I appreciate the time it must have taken to put this together, and it's simple. And if I know we talked a little bit about making it shareable versus,
Yeah, that's why
an
I want to
owner
get it,
because we
because
don't
now
want
that
it.
we've all seen
Yeah.
it, it has to be shared, but yeah.
I don't know, curious, you guys are just seeing it now. I had a day to think about it, but that's how I envision us kind of documenting. So for future school committees too, and administrative teams, we can all have a better record so that it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah, right.
But it's really important, and we can achieve our goal.
This is awesome. I mean, this is exactly, I think, what we need is a living document. Because I think the problem has been, for you who has been intimately involved in it, I think you did know, like, you guys had this on some
Yeah.
level for the subcommittee. But for historical purposes and being able to maintain it regardless of who's on the committee and having that living, this is going to be incredibly helpful, I think, moving forward. And Kathy, I like your idea because I think there's certain policies where I think you guys get into it, at a high level because it's very specific, important, graduation requirements being one of them. Some of the stuff coming down from the feds this year obviously was complicated, but I hope that there are some of these where you guys, it aligns and there isn't a question, and it's just a matter of like grammatical updates or, pronoun, whatever the thing is that's been changed is pretty minimal so that you don't, as a subcommittee, we can update it and have it be current with MASC without having a subcommittee meeting spend hours
go
doing
word
it.
for word.
So I guess,
Yeah.
I'm curious how,
And that actually sorry to interrupt, but that actually has been happening. Just Kathy's not bore witness to it because she's kind of new on the committee. But you'll remember last year, 2 years ago, we've brought for first reading up and we've gotten through like 5 of them
15,
because
yeah.
like
One
it's
was
changed
really-
from,
yeah.
Yeah.
it changed from parent to family.
Yeah.
Or we added in, you can bring in a pony for an animal versus, so there's very small things. It just
Right.
hasn't happened recently. So,
Right.
yeah.
We've been
Because
working
you guys
on
have been consumed by these ones.
Because
So
we've been
that's-
working on
consumed by
some
the bigger
complicated-
one.
The bigger
Yeah,
ones.
very
So
complicated
I
ones.
guess my hope is that this year, like, barring any insanity, which at this point, who knows, but maybe we can get through more than we did in the past with the.
And the good news is
Yeah.
we have a couple that will be first read at the next meeting, so that's great news.
Yeah, I think we're all very excited.
I know I am.
I'm extremely enthusiastic.
Yes.
So,
So this will be a living document that just is.
yeah, it'll be,
Okay.
it'll be a living document, so we will update it, the policy subcommittee would update it before and after our policy subcommittee meetings. I would recommend that the rest of the committee just have read-only access to it, so
Yeah.
that people aren't accidentally changing priorities and stuff like that. But, yeah, this, I think, is a roadmap, it's a living document, it can be changed. I don't know if Kelly, if you have anything to add as an alumni of the policy subcommittee.
No, I think you put in a lot of work, and I think we've talked about it a lot, and you've put on paper, like, you've kind of taken all the feedback,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've gotten it. So bravo.
Thank you.
Cool. So why don't we can we just knock this off the list? I can make a motion if you want to go back to the
Yeah,
goals.
it's an action item, yeah,
Yeah.
to accept the policy.
It's very cathartic to be like 8 months ahead of schedule, but if you want to, could you bring up the goals one more time? That way I can just make the motion. So I move that school committee approve the policy prioritization review schedule as presented.
Second.
Did you make the motion? Sorry. I don't know if you called for a motion or made the motion. Good, great.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, cool. So that was part 1 of that. Now, part 2 should be much easier and faster, hopefully. So would you mind just bringing up the clean policy document?
Yes.
So I appreciate the kind words about how long this took. It really didn't take that long. What took long
Timeout.
was.
Sorry.
That's okay. I can just sort of frame the discussion. So there it is. So we have 280 separate antiquated PDFs on our website that you have to sort of find policies to do. So I just went ahead and I just ripped out all of those PDFs and put them together all in one document with a table of contents. What I am proposing and what I'd like to eventually make a motion to do is I actually think that we should consider, Mike's gone, we should consider making a change, directing Dr. Klingeman's team to make a change to our website to get rid of all of those separate PDFs and just have a full master policy manual on our website. Besides being easier to navigate with a table of contents and everything, this is an education institution. One of the expectations is that we have to be sensitive to students with disabilities who may need screen readers and stuff like that. You can't do that if you're reading our policies, but with this, you can. So we put this on our website. That means you can do a much better, more robust search for, you know, keywords and policies that would be relevant to those keywords. If you have, you know, issues with visual, you can use a standard screen reader to have this read to you. I just think it's more responsible. And whenever we update a policy, we're essentially, and I've got, if we accept this, I just have a little guide that the central office can use on how to archive today's manual, make the change, and then put the new manual in replace of the old. That way we would always have a look back on changes that we've been making, which is, again, something that we can't do right now with these separate PDFs.
Right, the prior doesn't make.
Yeah, you never know
The
what.
historical.
Yeah, exactly. There's no historical frame of reference, so. Anybody have any questions? If you just want to click on one of those, Dr. K, like, you can go down and, yep, just click.
So does it,
So
this is
it-
my
yeah.
tech, just go to a PDF. It goes to a PDF, but it's all part of this one book, so that they're not individual.
Actually, it wouldn't be a PDF anymore. This would just be one
this
book
is
as
just because they exist.
as either a Word document or a Google document on the website.
So when
And
you,
therefore.
So you'd click on it and it would download for you.
No, that's not, I interrupted you.
no, when you update it, what's it gonna look like? It's gonna have the original one and the new one?
No, you would cut out the old one,
Yeah,
put in the new one.
yeah.
But in the old, so actually, to be more precise, what you would do is you would save the old one and call it archive with a date. You'd make the change, you know, you'd make the replacement to that, save it as current or whatever, and put that back on the website.
Where's
And
the
then
old one go?
in a folder called archive or something in the central office, so that we'd always have
Got
a look
it.
back on
Okay.
like, policies that have been
You
changed.
know how I am with.
That's
putting
okay.
together.
It doesn't need to, that way, there, I was trying just to understand if that was living on the website still, just from a
No,
space
the archive
perspective.
would
The
be-
archive is somewhere else.
Yeah,
You
the
can-
archive would be
You can
somewhere
always
else.
go to the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, and we'd always know when to look back, because now we'll be putting an update date on everything, so,
Love it.
And this
Yeah.
now allows search function, which is
yeah.
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 Imagine.
huge. I can't even imagine how much
Yeah.
that would improve things.
Wow.
So,
Great.
is everybody cool with that?
Yeah?
Okay. So I move that school committee direct the superintendent to replace the individual PDF system with a single policy document at a time that is convenient for her office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
I'm just so excited. I keep
Hopefully
forgetting all about.
hopefully the instructions have some music.
No,
along with
there's
it.
not gonna be any more videos.
Well, then I don't know that we
I'm
want to
done
do
doing
it.
videos. That's-
Sometimes Matt gives us things that are
Talk about taking
recorded
time.
with video and music on it too.
Fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Something for us to consider someday that costs money, right? We talked about this a little bit yesterday, is the MASC
Yeah.
website. You can pay
Hire
a
them.
service,
Yeah.
right, fee
For
to
them to just
list
update.
the
Yep.
policies
Yeah.
and do the updates, which
When the town comes into a ton of money
I know.
and gives us extra.
Actually,
Well,
ask
keep
about
in
it.
mind,
when
they
we're-
don't do the
worthwhile investment
updates.
based
We,
on
we
that.
still do the updates.
We do the updates.
Yeah,
but
so we'll just need
But
a
they,
little
but
money for that.
they host it.
Yeah.
Stop eating
Yeah.
This is way
I
too
asked
much
about the
fun.
cost at one point, and I think. no
I think
one
it's
answered.
10, I mean, I looked into
We're getting there. That's
10,000 down and then like a
Maintenance.
2,000 or 2,500 maintenance fee. But I think in the future, we can consider writing a grant request to DEF or something. This probably falls squarely within what they, yeah, so they might be able to do it for us. That was Dr. Klingman's idea. I don't want to take the
Great.
thunder.
All right. I'm just writing something down because you said grant and reminded me of something. All right, so next is 26-29 strategic plan timeline and engagement plan.
I think this was just left over from last meeting that school committee just didn't vote on this.
No, this is, I asked for this.
Oh,
to
you
be
did?
put on
Okay, I'm
this
sorry,
list.
Max.
This is
Go ahead.
This is another Mac, special, but this one will be even
Okay.
faster though than the last one. Can I, do you still have the goals document up on a tab?
Is that it?
Yeah. So, okay, so if we look at Goal 2, promote the development of a data-driven district strategic plan, the first bullet says that by November 19th, the committee will formally endorse a timeline and community engagement plan for the strategic planning process. I just don't want to, I want to make sure that that doesn't fall through the cracks and we're having a goal update meeting in a few months. And it's like, oh, we missed that one. So I probably missed this part of the meeting, but Dr. Klingman, I assume you had on the agenda your strategic plan engagement plan. Did we talk about that?
It was at the last meeting.
It was at the, that was at the last meeting. I just think we need to formally endorse it. That's all.
So on the November 19th.
Because we haven't yet.
Meeting.
The
If-
document
Should
that
put
she
an
had, right, with
action
the
item?
colors and the.
No, I
top-
think
I
we can
think
vote
so,
on it.
yeah.
Building phase
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I think it was like phase, like October
one and
1st,
phase
the
two.
meeting,
Yeah.
and then the
I
the
think.
meeting. So we sort of like
We don't
nodded
vote
and
on
rubbed
it.
our
We
chins,
didn't
but we
give
didn't
us
formally
meeting.
endorse it. So I just
It
want to
was
make
just
sure that we
this,
do that.
Yeah.
what I just pulled up, but then immediately
And this
lost.
is in its entirety, right? Because it ends April, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we got last, okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. All right, so,
There it is.
Sorry about that.
well, it's, yeah, action item, okay. So do you want to make a motion?
Does anyone have any questions on what we talked about, or is everybody cool with that engagement plan? I mean, it looked fine to me, but I didn't know if anyone had any.
Yeah.
And
I
you're on
think-
the committee,
I think,
so-
yeah, right.
If you have
Jen and
any-
I will, yeah, be there. I think that's going to be the important part, is just remembering that we should be updating the
Yes.
full committee after those meetings, and I need to remember to ask for that to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
You can just ask.
So I move that the committee formally endorse the 26 to 29 strategic plan engagement plan as presented.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
So we can knock off 2 things on our board document now.
So
See, we've got-
productive.
Thank God you got here, Matt. You're like
Me
running the
too.
show.
Wasn't going to show up until just now, Gerard. Okay?
Gerard's like, leave me alone, I've been here
Thanks-
since 4.
Thanks for the reminder. Where were you when I needed you? All I need is, I just need a simple
He
text.
was getting a sandwich.
I should have
He
texted
didn't know.
you.
Yeah.
He got a sandwich, though.
The
you
agenda
still got
came out
here.
Monday, yeah,
That's all
whatever,
right, don't worry about
whatever, okay. So, last but not least, superintendent goals, 25, 26.
This is just for.
It's an action item.
It's an action item. I put the goals that we had discussed previously and took feedback from committee members, and Beth and I aligned our goals with strategic plan, superintendent rubric, other initiatives, and we talked about making sure that the items that we put as measurable objectives align with what the principals and our school improvement plans are doing. We're making sure we're aligned in that way, but all of this should have been familiar to you, but cleaned up with the feedback that you all provided at the last several times we've discussed this. So hopefully in this format. And I also met with the superintendent evaluation subcommittee before the last meeting to get additional feedback, but we didn't want to put the goals on last meeting's agenda because we met right before the meeting. And so this is the result of feedback from the committee, from the subcommittee, and placed in the folder tonight for your viewing pleasure.
I know it takes a lot of time. I feel like you probably feel like you've been working on this for a very long time, but this final product, it includes a lot of the things we've talked about, and I appreciate that. So,
Thank you, Laurel. I think a goal needs to be making my goals each year
well,
because
that
it's a
yes,
really big
it's a
project.
very-
It should be number 1.
Yep.
And the rubrics in there, which is really helpful. I think that was something that I find helpful when it comes time to do the process. So,
Right. All right.
Cool.
Any other feedback?
Yeah, only one. I
Yeah.
would just suggest that perhaps at the next superintendent evaluation subcommittee, we still don't have a charter or a charge for that subcommittee, I don't think. So I think it would probably be a good idea for the subcommittee to just draft one up and present it at a future meeting so that we can endorse it and post it.
Yep.
so that's a good
I
example.
feel like we have them
online.
coming up, it's on a Friday, I don't know, yeah. Okay. Right.
So at this point, sorry, this is embarrassing. We have a policy subcommittee and we have a superintendent evaluation subcommittee, and that's it, right?
We have negotiations.
And the right.
Yeah. And the building, what about the
Well, that's just the liaison.
I think those are just, the rest are just liaisons.
gonna
Just
listen to
making
those
sure. So we
calls.
have, every subcommittee has roles and responsibilities at this point, except the brand new one that we just
Well, I think that's what,
created.
yeah, so we're meeting
Okay.
Monday, the 20th, if we want to put together a set of,
Okay.
a charge for us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When are we
Which I
meeting?
think you kind of did. I have Monday, the 20th at 9 AM.
The 20th of October?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes? I think that's what we decided last meeting.
Yep, school committee rubric.
I wrote evaluation subcommittee meeting.
And you thought we were, Kathy, you thought we were talking about the superintendent's rubric at that meeting for the agenda when we
Maybe.
post it?
Oh,
Maybe?
Maybe.
Okay.
yeah, we don't know,
Okay. But we can,
but you're in charge.
I forgot that.
I forgot that. You're in charge of that. I'm just there to help, lend support. Yeah, so we'll do a charge too.
And then also, can I ask you a question?
We have to add that to our
17th,
subcommittee.
we have a budget workshop scheduled for 11 a.m. for the next budget workshop phase. It's Friday.
Is that a week from Friday?
I believe so.
The 17th?
Of October, okay.
Friday, October 17th at 11 o'clock. I also wondered if it had been mentioned at a previous meeting, and if you're not interested, no pressure, but could we also do a school committee focus group for the strategic plan in the same manner that we've been doing with the faculty, parents ahead of that meeting? So we could do 10:30 to 11, just feedback from the school committee on strengths, areas of challenge, and areas of opportunity for the next strategic plan, if that works for you.
I can't be there till 11, but
Or we could do it after, or we could do it another time. I just wanted to give the school committee an opportunity to provide feedback, and we could even do it on Zoom if coming in is too difficult, but
Would it be, sorry, 10:30 to 1 then, would be the block?
we have,
After is
yes.
better.
Because we have 11 to 12:30 for the
11 to
budget
12:30,
subcommittee
yeah.
right now.
And after's better for you, could you make it after?
yeah, I'll just stay. Yeah, I can get there at
11
11.
to 1.
All right,
Yeah,
so
great.
I'm going to make this a real thing on my calendar.
Okay.
So what's the start time?
It'll be 11 to 1.
It's 11 to 1, okay.
In the
very
last,
good.
the last 30 minutes, we'll do a focus group for strategic plan feedback, which would be included with the data analysis that TLA is doing.
All right.
Just make sure Jen knows.
I'll make, yeah, like 3 in the morning.
Is it rude
Oh,
to
I,
text
yeah,
her right now?
yeah. No, I do, but like I said,
would
like,
go right now.
for school
Yeah.
committee
Today's
meetings,
probably
I
the
always
worst
block
day.
out
I
for.
texted her last
Yeah,
night.
but I,
Fine.
and so
Right
it,
away, I was like,
like, it
why
didn't
are
look
you- I
different
thought
to
you'd
me
be, like,
this
in
time, so it was like, I was like, oh.
All right, let me just tell
We need,
Jen.
Kelly, we need lots of scheduling
Hang-
reminders.
I know.
Just kidding.
I'm failing. All right, I'm writing myself a note. Tell Jen.
No, we are
I
not.
think they did. Did you guys vote to
Managing.
approve my goals?
Oh, shoot, no.
Not yet. We got sidetracked with dates on the calendar. Okay. So, well, no, because I think there was
Well, it
one more
an
question.
ongoing thread about evaluation.
So can I have a motion to approve the superintendent goals for 25, 26?
Enthusiastically seconded.
Oh, that, I asked for a motion, but, okay. So second, okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Excellent. All right, so next meeting, I have school improvement
I
plans.
thought we were flipping these. I'm just kidding.
Well, here's the deal. Yeah, we put school improvement draft plans, and then we also moved
No, I mean,
FY '26 impact.
Yes.
Okay, and then district enrollment and class size, and beginning of year student data update.
Yes.
And then we'll also add on the superintendent evaluation committee if we come up with a charge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will
And then
not-
we vote that and then put it into the document, because right now that subcommittee is missing from our
What document?
website. We have a subcommittee and liaisons.
Oh, on
for-
the, yeah, on the school committee.
But that's fine, that's
Okay.
the next time.
I will not be at the meeting on the 22nd, but we can be prepared
Okay,
with anything to
Oh,
share.
okay.
All right, I think that's everything. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not, do you
Thank
see what
you.
time it is?
Yeah, it's time for me to go home and put on my pajamas.